Hello. I do so hope that you didn't hear that part, but if so, then it was just wow, 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 and it's not. Whatever. Anyway, hi, it's your currently least favorite person on the internet. Oh, I need to stop. So, I kind of did it in, I think it was one of the all sign videos. No, I've kind of done it once before. And I know Benabel referred to it as the opening of the keys. And I know like she didn't make the spread or whatever. But that's basically what I'm going to do today. So I'm going to use the wild unknown archetypes. And I am going to shuffle up the deck. And numerologically, I'm going to shuffle it up. I'll split it into 4 piles. So you can pick a pile if you want. And I'm going to bring up the sticky note to record them right now. And basically, I'll keep going until I get a card that's already been flipped over. So I'm going to put them face down. So, like, if I get a 2, then I'll flip over the second card, a 5, flip over the 5th card, and keep going until I've gotten a card that has already revealed itself. For master numbers, I'm going to do both. But so, like, if I get like 22, then I'll like flip over the second card and then flip over the second card after that. And from that second card, I'm going to pick whatever like that number is, and we'll go from there. Right. I did do some preparatory thinking this time because I've been meaning to come live for like hours now, but I was dozing earlier. I've been adjusting my sleep schedule to like the one that I'm going to need to work, but I forgot that training is a thing and I'm going to be training on days for a while. So thankfully I didn't go full force, I guess. But I do need to stay awake today so I can be properly adjusted. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I'm just going to clear these. Ba, 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 ba. So also Mercury took one last electronic. This is very warm. This is extremely warm. Mercury took one last electronic from me. My fan just died the other night. I was going to sleep ish and I heard it just like stop. I was like, oh. Okay, yeah. It's just brighter than I thought it would be. So I got a new fan. And because I got a new fan, the base is a lot less wide. It doesn't cover my vent. I feel air. That's exciting. Yeah, and stuff is starting to move. So anyway. To the point where like I'm like, whoa, like should I like not? And it's like, no, girl. I've already like workshopped all of this in my mind before. I was already preparing myself before, and sorry. I reached the conclusion that it'll be okay. So no need to get cold feet now. Since I have these, I was almost like I could do like another build with me Archeo spread, but I'm gonna low key try to have this done within the next like 2 hours, hour and a half maybe. We'll see. I may have to go. I might not. The Crone and Kairos at the cut. The Crone and Mythic Time. Why does this feel like time wizardry? But the crone isn't necessarily, hey Holly, how you doing? The crone isn't necessarily feeling, because of the crone's age, it feels more like something like a wisdom that's been gained or learned through life experience rather than just like a straight up magic. I'm going to split the well-known archetypes into 4 different piles, stacks, and then we're just going to see. And I'm going to hopefully be done within 2 hours. But instead of it being more magical, it feels like it's something that the crone notices. So Kairos is all about time that speeds up and slows down, right? If you're in that class that you dread, then it feels like things take forever and time flies when you're having fun. With the crone there, it's almost like the crone throughout her life has observed that when she's in a certain internal state or in a certain mental state or within a certain emotional frame, there's something about her environment that passes differently. And with that knowing, she like puts herself in a particular mood or position in order for like time to feel like it's speeding up or in order for time to feel like it's slowing down. It's not like particular to time. So it is like it is a sort of magic in a way, but I guess that's interesting because circumstance came up within the past 2 videos. Did you have a great Mother's Day? Oh, you just said it. You had an amazing Mother's Day yesterday. I'm glad to hear it. I feel like I didn't do too much yesterday because my mom wanted to be with her mom, but I did a little bit with my mom. And then today is my mom's birthday. Excuse me. Anima Mundi and Kairos. Oh, snap. Hold up. It's fine. We're just shuffling cards. All right, I'll give it 2 more, and then I'll cut it 4 ways. Oop. Oh. Oh, speaking of Mother's Day, the mother and the mystic. The mystic mother? Maybe the crown is magical. It's a mystic. We got the mystic mama. The mother and the mystic, it also feels like mission or purpose or things that the divine reveals to us. Like the mother knows that someday she's going to give birth to a baby, even though she is not, we'll say the maiden knows that one day she is, well, it came out as the mother. We'll keep it in tune with the mother because it's not like maiden, but it feels like it's before the maiden has met anyone. It's before the maiden is doing anything to actually birth the baby. She's already getting visions of having a baby. Or I guess it could be someone who like mothers in spirit. The mystic mother. Mother of the mystics. Okay. All right. I don't know. Anyway. 1, 2. And then we split this in half. And we split this in half. So it's 1, 2. I'm going to try to keep these in order. 3. Did I ask you how you're doing today? Oh, yeah, I did. You said you're good. I am also swell. Oh, now all the numbers are covered. I can't type anything. So I'll say 1 starts at 9:30. 930. All right. So I'm going to flip the card at the top of the deck. And it is 57, the tier. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Flip that over. It's number 10. So that's a 1. flip that over, it's number 14, which is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 12, which is a 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we have number 71, which is an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a 45, which is a 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Gonna get this whole deck apparently. We have number 61, which is a 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We end with the Judge. So I'm gonna pull all these out of the deck. I don't even remember what order they came out in. I probably should have been like reading them so it would help me remember. What? Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. So we have the Tear. Oh, the Mask. The Mentor. The Warrior. The Judge. The Prayer. The King. And Eros. I want to put these away. But I don't want to like put them away. I also don't want my laptop to get too warm. Okay. So if you chose the first one, again, you have the Tear and the Mask, which is interesting. The Tear, the Mask. Then the Mentor and the Warrior. Then the Judge and the Prayer. With the King and Eros. The King, Eros. The Tear, the Mask, the Mentor, and the Warrior feels like the Tear is like the crybaby. The Mask is the one who steals themselves. With the Mentor and the Warrior, it's almost like the sensitive soul who, through circumstances probably associated with birth, needs to become something else. So they're mentored, they're taught, they're trained in how to like hide their sensitivity and to dry their tears so that they can go on the battlefield and do what it is that they need to do. The Judge, the Prayer, the King. Like the King feels like the answer to a prayer. The King could also be the destination of this warrior. The Judge and the Prayer is interesting though, because so it feels like the first pile, like they go throughout their lives dulling their senses and like not being as emotional or whatever. But it feels like the sensitivity is what is like asked for or what is needed in a situation. Which is interesting. So there's been a thread that's come up a few times, not too many, of like when there's a tyrant or a dictator or a ruler that people don't want anymore and they oust that one and then somebody else comes in. Well, most of the time it's like there's no like backup government or governance or system in place. It's just like the current one is terrible. Let's get rid of it. Things fall into chaos. Somebody rises to power and prominence, and then they become the exact king, ruler, governor that was just ousted. Nothing really improves. The prayer, I don't know if it's like a prayer of the people, like if it's a collective hope. But this, whoever is starting this with the tier, they just like they read us sensitive. It's a sensitivity they've learned to hide. So it's probably a side of whoever this warrior is, whoever this new king is, this newly crowned king. There's a side to that person that others may not necessarily see with the judge card, but it's one that they hope for, which is cool. It feels like they're getting exactly what they want. Hey David, how you doing? It's like they're afraid of getting another insensitive tyrant, but that's not who they're getting with this one, even though they wouldn't know it. I think the challenge for the warrior would then be at this point to bring their sensitivity and their vulnerability back to the forefront. And it's interesting because I was just in my procrastination and my working off enough sleepy to come live. I got sucked into a YouTube hole, and someone was talking about how growing up he had a lot of people around him that weren't into like the music and the skate scene and like all of these other things that he was into. So he lived the beginning of his life until he left for uni sort of like, I'm trying not to say in the closet, but like he didn't live it out open. So there was like this part of his life, this part of his personality, this part of his interest that nobody ever knew until he went to university and found someone who openly sort of like liked the same things. And then he was talking about how he was reflecting on how that one person that he met at that time in his life paved the way for him to become as authentically himself as he is. So now it's like if he's ever like, is this a little too that? Is a little too this? Is this not like welcomed in this space? Can I not share this with this person? He's like, he doesn't care. And if it's someone that he can't share it with, then he's like, well, then they're not really worth sharing it with or whatever. Like, what am I losing out on? It's almost that. The challenge in this though, again, feels like opening back up after whatever is sought, or whatever is sought is gained. What's interesting is too, we have this seal on the palm that isn't the same as the seal that the crow had in the crown, but it makes me think of it. And I guess like the key point here is because this warrior has now become king, they are in a position to make changes or to create an environment that's more welcoming and more accepting of who they are and who they were. To create a world where you don't have to like mask tears. I don't know if it's the pain of the people. I mean, it very much so could be. The only thing I haven't really touched on is Eros. And Eros feels like Eros feels intoxicating. But that could just be like the release of like years of um I want to say sentiment, but like pent up emotions, or it's after like years of not feeling like one could cry or be sensitive or not feeling like their caring, compassionate, kind nature is as appreciated and valued and respected as their ability to go out and sort of like make things happen. With the mentor card again, it feels like this person is prepared for this role, but I almost wonder if I don't the mentor and the judge could be on like similar vibes. Could be. And maybe this is just like a not a misunderstanding, but I guess if the people need a king who is sensitive and the mentor is training someone, the people need a warrior king who is sensitive and the mentee is already sensitive, then they only need to be taught how to be a mentor. So it's not that the men or they only need to be taught how to be a warrior. So it's not necessarily that the sensitive part was um undervalued or that the sensitive part was trying to be minimized. It's not that the mentor necessarily said you need to mask your tears. It just maybe it's more that like the mentor was focused on creating a warrior because that's what was lacking or that's what was needed. But again, Eros just it feels like that moment when the warrior king's kindness and compassion and sensitivity is recognized, acknowledged, accepted, and like that welling up of emotion and that like the bubbling over and then the subsequent bursting of the dam, like that's Eros. And I guess at that point it would feel at least mildly intoxicating. Potentially. It's like, oh, if I can, be myself around these folk, then who knows who, whatever, blah blah blah. Anyway, sorry. it's it's like with that bit of liberation and freedom comes a desire to seek out more and more and more and more and more. For the people who never thought they would get a ruler who values them, and for the ruler who never thought that the depth of his character and the truth of who he is would be appreciated. The mentor and the judge like guide them to each other. So it works out. Gorgeous. Beautiful. Love it. Number two. I'm so proud of how like not an hour long that was. I'm gonna say you start at 23:00 because gotta get the deck. So well, now I gotta wait 3 seconds. So top of the deck is the Hunter, which is a 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Next card is the Flame. The Flame was actually at the top of the deck when I opened it up, which is 51, which is a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now is Agape. Agape is number 72. It's interesting. So Eros came out as the last card for 1. And in my mind, I was kind of thinking like, it's interesting that this feeling would come out as Eros rather than Agape because of the mutual sort of like reciprocity, unbounded nature of Agape rather than the sort of like lusty, fiery Eros. But again, it felt like the heat behind Eros, or yeah, it felt like that like feeling of liberation after a period of not thinking it would come is why it read as more Eros than Agape in the moment. It'll probably like cool into an Agape, but it flashes as Eros. 72 is another 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Next, we have the Threshold, which is number 45. Did I have 54 before? Hold it. Well, it's too late now. I feel like I said 45, but maybe it was 54. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's a lot of nines here. I had to do my pre-employment drug screening today, and I went to go to the place to get it done, to go pee in a cup. And then there was this guy that came in, and he was being seen, and he had tattoos, and on his neck he had 999 tattooed, like sort of ascending diagonally. And there's already been 3 9s: number 9, number 45, and number 72, almost at 27. So I saw that 999 earlier today, which was interesting, but I did lose my place. So it was this one, right? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It was this card. The 9th one is the Mother, which is a 1. Oh, flip you up right. The next card is the Ocean, which is a 35, 8. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We land back on the Hunter. So now I'm going to pull out all the cards I flipped over. We have the Hunter, the Threshold, the Flame, the Mother, the Ocean, Agape, and that's it. Oh, gosh, come on. I said the Kirsty. Where's a Kirsty? Oh, Kirsty's not here. I got excited. Kirsty announced her delightful news the other day. You had a dream about developing an air freshener and new baby scent. What does new baby smell like? Barf and... I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I saw a Febreze commercial earlier today. I was like, I feel like I haven't seen Febreze in a minute. Like, we used to keep Febreze. But now they're doing, I mean, it was more like the air freshener rather than the fabric freshener, but okay. So the last card again is one of the big 8. I think it's 8, 71 through 78. Is that 7? 71, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is 8. First we ended on Eros, now we end on Agape. Interesting. The Hunter, the Threshold, the Flame, the Mother, the Ocean, and Agape. Obviously, there's like a childbirthing energy at the end of this, because it's the Mother, the Ocean, and Agape. Is this like the Mystic Mother? The Mother, the Ocean, and then Agape. Also in Agape? But this feels... This is a little mitotic question mark. Or I guess it's just cell division. This is like when all the chromosomes line up in the middle and then the spindle forms and it pulls them apart as cells are replicating. I did see something yesterday about some people in the UK making like the first baby has been born question mark that has DNA from more than 2 people. And they were saying that it's because of like if there's a genetic something in the mitochondrial DNA, then it'll help it so that the child doesn't inherit it. Now, we are roughly 50% one parent and 50% the other parent. So all of our DNA is a combination, except for in the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondrial DNA is purely from the mother. DNA from the mother is the powerhouse. DNA from the mother is used in that which gives every single cell the ability to conduct all of its functions. Kind of sort of powers the human being if we are an amalgamation of our cells and stuff, right? And it's only the mother's DNA somehow. The hunter, the threshold, and the flame. This feels like the hunter to the threshold feels like it's getting as far as it can go. And both of these are nines. There's a 45 9 and then a straight up 9. And then there's a 6 in the flame, a 1 of the mother, an 8 of the ocean, and then a 9 in agape. This one is so weird. This is so weird. This, if we're talking about a mother and the water of the room being this entire ocean, the hunter feels like it would be like traveling down the birth canal, right? It's going for the light, it's chasing the light at the end of the tunnel, and then it reaches the threshold. I remember because I asked, speaking of Kirsty, I asked her, because I forgot the due date that she said, so I asked her, and she was like, he's in the best place on earth right now, in a mother's womb. And it almost makes me think of that here. It's like the baby's traveling, and then it's like, wait, do I actually want do I actually want to be born? Like it's you know, the world in here is different. And I was thinking about every now and then it comes up, and I feel like I hope it doesn't come off as too disrespectful because I don't mean anyone any disrespect. When I'm like, it's not that um mothers necessarily create life, it's that they carry it because it's half of the mother and half of the father. There's the egg donor and the sperm donor, and it's a combination of those two things. An egg by itself does not life make. Every egg that is laid isn't necessarily fertilized, but there's something about her ability to nurture life to the point where it can sustain itself outside of her, more or less. That's still equally as like gorgeous, if not more so. It feels like as this baby or as this creation hits a moment of hesitation at the edge of the birth canal, it's like, and as it considers for a moment everything that it's leaving, and it's like this cold dark world out there or whatever, but the mother is this flame, and the flame provides warmth. Like the love of the mother gives the baby the courage to like exit and to be birthed, because it's like, unfortunately it's not everyone's experience with their mother. But it's like, even if the world is like cold and cruel and dark and lonely, like I have this light, I have this flame, I have this warmth that'll be with me so I can take the step, right? There's something that's very like mother and child about this, or there's something that's almost sort of like disjointed, question mark. I feel like I've hit a little bit of a wall, honestly. I guess I should just like give it a second, right? So what's on my mind right now? Okay. So we have the warmth of the mother's love, right? And then mitochondrial DNA, or mitochondrial DNA is like purely the mother. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It synthesizes ATP, which is the thing that the cells break down to make energy, or to they break it down as energy. It's like food for your cells, I guess. It's the plant of the of the body, um, the plant in like a global ecosystem where the plants turn sunlight into energy, and all life is dependent upon photosynthesizers' ability to create energy out of seemingly nothing. Either they get their energy from like the sun or some other source, or they consume those who create it. Right. So I guess in that analogy, if the mitochondria is the plant of the cell, then the flame would provide the light that it needs to like photosynthesize to create the ATP. What is that? Adenosine triphosphate? Who would have thought that I keep all of my, biology and chemistry current through pulling cards on the internet? Um, there's something about this ocean though. Because honestly, if it read the mother and then agape and then the ocean, or if it was just agape and then the ocean, it would be like one cell becoming two cells. But it came out this way. So maybe instead of division, that's like the meeting, question mark. So all of our cells carry like a full genetic transcript. Besides sperm cells and egg cells, they carry half, right? Like we have double stranded DNA, and in the sperm and egg cells, like you essentially get one strand instead of both strands. So you get one strand per set of genes from one person, and then you get a strand from the same set of genes in another person. Hopefully, sometimes the one person might not have the same. You get one copy from one person and another copy from another person, and then they come together to join to create that double strand. And then from there, it just like replicates and replicates and replicates and replicates. So, because there was already this separation, excuse me, maybe these two are coming together. If these are coming together, then this would be the sperm that's traveling to meet the egg and to fertilize the egg inside of the mother. And then the flame would be like the baby that's now, I guess the flame would be that spark of life that's within the mother, that the mother now holds, nurtures, nourishes, and loves until it is grown enough for her, until it grows enough to be able to survive outside of the mother and then into the world. If you just about two, you're pregnant. I don't know. I'm kidding. Um, Maybe it's one of those things though that's echoed and mirrored in many, like just like the sperm meets the egg, or the sperm makes its journey to the egg, and just like the baby makes its journey through the birth canal, so do we too make our journeys through life until we reach that light at the end of the tunnel, or until we reach that tunnel with the light at the end of it when it comes our time. And maybe that's another like microcosmic, macrocosmic sort of energy with the ocean. But it feels like it's more than that. Like it feels like all of those pieces are valid. And then it's almost like if you were to like compare and contrast all of them, there's something that like you wouldn't notice. And whatever that greater thing is, the love of the divine that permeates through everything to give us these experiences, or to give us a life to live. But the hunter has a goal in mind. You know what? I've combined piles one and two, the unused cards. Well, all of one and the unused cards from two. I'm going to get one more archetype to help me out, because if I can't see it, I guess I can't see it. All right. Oh, I'll take it. The Starborn at the bottom. The Lover was at the bottom before. The Maiden. Number 8. The other 8 on the table is the Ocean. Well, the Mother, the Maiden, and the Chrono all made appearances today. The Maiden and the Starborn. There is even the last one. Pile one was like the child who was to become king someday, the crybaby who was to be king. I guess Mother's Day was yesterday. I feel like there's some like it's how you look at it. Oh. But then the maiden confuses me. There's some kind of alignment here, right? Remember how I said it would be easier if this card came out before this one, because then it's like it's one cell splitting into two cells. But with the ocean, it's like these things are from like above and below the water. I was watching Naked and Afraid maybe when I was on the treadmill, and they had to like swim. Some people went on a boat and rowed to the island. Some people swam carrying some pack of whatever. And it reminded me of her take of the Heartache Rune. That one time it came out, and it was like when you're below the surface of the water and you look up, like there are so many things that aren't the moon that can eclipse the sun because of your relative position to it. But it's like they're on these two different sides of the veil, or above and below the surface. They're actually lining up. Like that's what's happening here. They're going to come close enough to like line up. That's why it was like, it's how you look at it. I was like, oh, what? Because at first it was like upright and I didn't get it. So I had to turn the card. And I was like, oh, they're lighting up. Got it. This might actually speak to all of the. It's one of those, like, some people may say or find it cheesy, Um, one of those, like, so many things had to happen cosmically. Well, so many things had to happen, like, cosmically, universally, and then, like, globally to, like, get you to be born, number one. And then so many things are, like, continuously happening as we live our day-to-day lives. It's this subtle alignment, or it's this greater working of things. I feel like this is supposed to be really encouraging. It's this greater alignment and this greater working of things that, like, got us here and that will continue to play out and work out and come together as we move forward. I think the maiden is just the one who may be familiar with the experience through education, but she has not yet experienced being impregnated and, like, birthing a child. Her body is, like, potentially ready, where it's like it's creating the eggs, it's doing all of these things, but it hasn't. It's like she hasn't yet, in the moment that will lead to her impregnation, connected with that person in that way to get that to happen. Her egg hasn't yet met the sperm. So it's almost like there are even more things, like, this is two out of the six that I see just on this card. But it's like more and more and more things are aligning. And again, I think it's significant that it's above and below the surface, things that we are aware of, things that we aren't aware of, and just like the vast spectrum of, like, things that we're aware of and things that we're not aware of. Like, there are things that we know of but we haven't personally experienced. There are things that we, like, hear but, like, we might not personally believe is true. There are the things that we've been through, witness, experience, that we know. There are things that we don't know that we don't even know. There are things that we don't know that we do know. There are things that we don't know but we think we know. Like, there's a spectrum on both sides of the ocean. The sky expands infinitely upward, or, like, the air expands infinitely upward until it hits the ionosphere, the atmosphere. The ocean extends infinitely downward until it hits the crust, the core. So in that way, it's almost like there is a limit, but it isn't really, because we can abstract it to, well, like, well, there's space above the atmosphere. There is existence outside of Earth's sphere of influence. And when you extend down far enough, you come out on the other side of the planet, and same thing. It feels like, though, there is a moment of hesitation here as the hunter reaches this threshold. And the only thing that's offered is this flame. For some, the flame will be bright enough to get them to take the next step. For others, it won't be. But with the mother, again, it's like, know that, you're taken care of. Cool. I think, too, there is, this is eight. Eight is a number of apprenticeship. It's a number of apprenticeship in the process to reaching mastery. Eight occurs after the enlightenment of the seven. So it kind of, this is like the crone and the kairos, because crone and kairos had an energy where it's like the time magicry. The time magic of the crone isn't necessarily one that is, like, exerted externally. The time magic of the crone is one that's, like, as she's lived her life and as she's gone through various experiences, she knows that when she's in a certain state, be it mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically, when she's, like, working out at the gym and everything is moving, then certain things in her environments, like, it moves differently. but it feels like number two is like going through this tunnel again. They hit the dead end and they reach the flame. The flame is the source of the light that they've been following, and it feels like it doesn't take them any longer, or it doesn't take them any further than that. But then right after that comes the mother. So again, like that could be the edge of the birth canal. And then there's some like major ego transformation or ego rebirth or like a rebranding, or it's because again, it's like this energy. It's realizing that certain things throughout the hunter's journey to the threshold has been lining up, lining up, lining up, lining up, so that like the maiden within her body can produce an egg to interact with the sperm to be fertilized and then to grow into something. And again, it almost feels like there is this simultaneous energy of like giving birth and being birth at the same time, which almost makes me think of that double empress and that like perfected creation, whatever that means, energy that she had. And again, it's almost like this, just like there were times before where you didn't necessarily know how or when or why something would happen, and it eventually happened. It's partially like know that that will happen again or believe that it'll happen again, but also at the same time, there's something about the mother, the ocean, and agape being beyond the reach of the flame. But I do think there may actually, like, this threshold might actually be a part of this sequence of things lining up in agape. Because remember when I was talking about the ocean, and it's like either you'll hit the crust or you'll hit like the mantle. I think I said magma. If it's like an underwater volcanic vent, you'll hit magma. You'll hit the mantle. It's like a break in the crust. It feels like this is above the water. Like this is above the surface. This is below the surface. This is like below, like the surface. This is above the surface of the water, below the surface of the water. This is the surface of like the crust, and under that is like the mantle. Under that is like all the magma and stuff. There's something born between the ocean and the magma that is like land or something like that. Again, this is one of those, especially like you may benefit from a certain amount of reflection. It's almost like, you know how they say hindsight is 2020, but it's like sometimes if you look at where you are, if you're stumped and you take a step back, it's like if you have a jigsaw puzzle but you don't know what the picture is supposed to be. You're just like putting the pieces together the best you can. It's like you have enough pieces assembled that if you take a step back, either your mind's eye or your logical thinking, reasoning brain, if you got one like that, will be able to see the image that you're putting together. And then it'll give you ideas of like colors to start looking for in certain areas to fill that in. Or it's like there's something that's been overlooked or something that it takes a certain amount of distance to be able to recognize, that you'll see that'll be like very helpful. You may also realize and recognize how you've been, again, because the mother, or because the maiden is here and because the mother is here. You may realize exactly along that point that there are certain things that you've been doing and or acquiring, and it's like it's all going to come together. It's going to make sense. You're ready to either be fertilized or to fertilize, or to be fertilized and simultaneously fertilized, because there's a lot of like multiplicitous energy here. Cool. I hope you have an amazing whatever one of you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. And I'm going to move on to 3. Kind of, sort of, somewhat getting through these. What? Crazy, right? Oh, no. I erased too many zeros. We're going to say 55, 10 for the third one. Boo, 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 boo. Oh. Okay. First card is the Bardo. Number 50. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next card is the Village, which is number 41, which is another 5. And you're starting at 55 minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next card is the Pilgrim, which is number 20. 1, 2. Next card is the Comic, which is number 26. Every time I see this card, I'm like, oh gosh. What do you say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because it was 26, right? Yeah, 26. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yours is the shortest. It landed back on the Bardo. Also, I think never mind. Maybe it just happened last time where I ended where I started. But the Judge wasn't at the top, and that's where we ended that one. So you get the Bardo, the Village, the Pilgrim, and the Comic. Oh, girl. I'm already going to say, I'm going to tell you right now, if you pick number 3, I am not qualified to do your reading. Go find another reader. Girl, what in the, what you call them? When people say that you are an eternal spirit having a temporary human experience, they're talking about you. When people talk about being whatever or whoever, they're talking about you. When people talk about like earth angels and stuff like that, they might be talking about you. The Bardo is this in-between space, right? And then we have the Village, and then we have the Pilgrim. So, or you may be on your way there. It feels like the Village is in the Bardo, and the Pilgrim is on a pilgrimage outside of the Bardo. The reason why I say they were talking about you is because I didn't know this until the last time I pulled this card. I always thought that this was a cat with big old anime teary eyes. But if you look, there are human eyes inside of the cat. There are eyes inside those eye holes. This is a mask. So yeah. And that's it. Maybe you are in a journey of self-discovery. Honestly, though, I wouldn't be surprised if you resonate to things like star seeds, even if you don't necessarily identify as one. What I will say is, like, it feels like you have a strong sense of purpose and a very strong, um, maybe like ethical, moral, like your code of ethics and morals is very stringent, or there's something about you that's very defined to you. Like you would know it better than anyone. And it's very like, this is who I am, this is how I am, but like, why do I feel out of place? Or it's like if there's a thing that you've always known that you wanted to do, like purpose is all over this. And it's just like whoever you are, however you are, especially in the ways that have been lacking, that is what's for you to bring to this world. Like that's why you're here. It makes me think of a few isekai animes. Like there was one about this girl who loved books, but she gets born into this world where there aren't any books because they don't have paper. Like there was never the dude who invented the printing press that made literature like widely available. It's like, the paper that they do have is, or like the whatever writing they have, if it's not like etched into stone, it's like it's extremely expensive. It's very hard to come by. Books are so expensive that nobody reads for leisure, let alone anything else. And it's like it's only for like the royal military, very, very important things because it's so scarce. There's this other isekai anime that I'm watching where isekai just means that it's a person from one world who gets reincarnated into a different world. Typically it's like someone who lives in a world like us and then they get born into a world where they're like magic and dragons and fairies and stuff like that. There's this one that I'm watching right now that is about this character who does this heroic deed and is rewarded with a life in a fantasy realm where there are magic and dragons and elves and etc. But the gods in that realm are like, you'll find a lot of the things that were like fantastical and mysterious or impossible on your world, but you'll also find that it's like severely lacking in the entertainment department and other ways. Like it's not as advanced in those ways, so there's not as much to do. But we would love it if you would bring some of the entertainment and some of those things from your world, so call it like a cultural exchange. You get a body that gives you access to magic and a whole bunch of other stuff. You give this world art and literature and video games or board games. And it's like it's along that vein. But it feels like it would be something that you've almost always identified. It's again like, and it's another reason why I wouldn't be surprised if you identify as like a star seed, or if part of that resonates to you, even if you don't identify it as it, is because it feels like it's something that's so indicative of like everybody where you're from. Like back in your village, everyone is like that. Or back in your like where you're from, everyone knows this, or this thing is so commonplace, but you find yourself in a place where that's not the case. Then you become this comic. Again, I'm trying to position it so you can see it. Yeah, the eyeballs. Those are people eyes. Those ain't cat eyes. And the cat, like you're just like, oh, I'm here. Maybe you think that life is a divine comedy because of how absurd it is and can be. Um, but yeah, I would say though, I guess I'll just say it like in the most harmless way. I'm trying to word it in a way that's not like mean or whatever, because it is like just came out of left field. Um, it's just like, I guess, be clear of your motivations and intentions. I think sometimes, especially, and this is me putting humanity has been humanity. If you ain't from here, then you wouldn't be like this. But some people ain't from here. There, some people come from places worse. Anyway, but it's just like whenever we try to make the world around us more suitable to us, it's just like, be mindful of the others who still share this world with us. And even if you like are whoever you are or whatever you are, doesn't necessarily like, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that other people are going to be on board or that other people necessarily want it, right? And so you may find yourself, I don't know if it is partially that like before your time or ahead of the time types of things where it's like you find yourself in like a smaller community of people rather than like making these huge sweeping sort of impacts and changes within this incarnation. But if that's the case, like it would be the seed that you plant that will someday like be watered and grow. Maybe there's also like a little bit of a watcher, witness, observer in this. I don't know anything was written in the book. What's interesting about the Bardo is that like it looks like an eyeball, and that is the thing in the cat, right? It was like the eyes. Hmm. This almost got some. Hey Teresa, how you doing? This almost got some like, I mean, I guess if starseed energy is here and everything else is here, it's almost this like battle for good and evil that's taking place on the planet. And there are some people who have high hopes and aspirations for humanity and who like want to see us move forward in positive beneficial ways, like true age of Aquarius, whatever. And there may be others who like for whatever reason more or less like the system as is, and so they almost like derail or try to sabotage, they try to preserve a status quo. And that's why I'm like, just um be mindful of, I guess too, I feel like a lot of times that I see stuff like that portrayed in like the media, and when I hear people talk about stuff like that, was it the last one? No, it was this. Yeah, it was this one with the culture exchange. I think sometimes it's like I feel like every time I see it or I hear it, there isn't a real exchange. There isn't any like real observation. There's like no real, it's like someone comes in with a goal, with a purpose, with a mission, with an agenda, but they don't, it's almost like they don't integrate well enough or they don't integrate completely enough into their new environment to see like the positives and the negatives. And so it almost becomes this like, I'm going to come in and make everything the way that I want to make it and completely wipe out like the current customs, culture, history, and everything. There's no learning. There's no real engagement, honestly. And so it's like that person just becomes an extension of something that is coming to spread its influence. And so it may go a little too far, or in some points, in some moments, it may be extreme. It's almost that, like, recognize and realize that not everything is bad. And there are some things that you only experience as one of the locals. So in your time as one of the locals, it's almost like get to know as much as you can before something is lost. And then it's like, essentially, like, if you are this, I'm struggling to find a metaphor. But it's like, if it's your goal to, I mean, people have done it where it's like, people go to some place and they think that the locals are all this or all that, or like, ooh, like we're so much more advanced than they are. And then they go in and they completely wipe out like the richness that is there. And then they just spread their own whatever. So it doesn't really become a merging of influences, which is like what number two was all about, like merging and things coming together and like becoming something different, something more beautiful in essence. But this energy, it's a danger of like just going in, completely wiping out what is there and replacing it with the very thing that you left. And it's like, well, if stuff in the Bardo was so good, then why is the Bardo the Bardo? And why does the village look like this? You know what I mean? Sometimes it can be easy for it's almost like sometimes it can be easy for some energies to take advantage of a compassionate heart that would go in service like that, and then they just become this agent of like basically again just like spreading an influence. There's no real care or concern or compassion for the people. They're just like they're looking for land, they're looking for resources, they're looking for whatever under the guise of like, oh, we're here to help. See why I was trying to find like a neat or clean way to say this, but it's just like just be really. I guess I would say I would offer. I did it for the last one. I mean, the mirror is at the bottom of the deck with the vessel behind it. I will grab one more because I don't think everyone is like that, but that can like it can get dangerously close. Well, the vessel is the one that came out. Oof. And I feel like the vessel again, like the vessel is just the vessel. The vessel itself is somewhat meaningless. It's what's inside the vessel that matters. A cup is just a cup, a jug is just a jug, a body is just a body. It's what's inside of it that matters, and it's what's inside of it that counts. And I think so too in this way, if there is this higher, like, I am this, I'm from this place in the cosmos that has ascended sort of spiritually or whatever. It's like, well, okay, well, don't forget the fact that there are plenty of vessels on earth, or there are plenty of people on earth who are also vessels of the divine and vessels of the spiritual. And again, it's like it's one of those things when the person immerses themselves, truly immerses themselves in the culture and stuff, they learn that, they discover it, and then it becomes this beautiful blend rather than it being just like, okay, you're going to stop doing it your way and you're going to do it my way because I'm a cleaner, healthier vessel, and y'all's vessels are full of garbage that you just need to wash out. And it's like, girl, I mean, at the end of the day, take it as it resonates. Use your own intuition, discernment, guidance, knowledge, and wisdom. If that's your path or that's what you're about, I guess you're going to do it regardless, right? If that's what you're about, it doesn't matter if I'm like, treat people as people instead of thinking that you are so far above or beyond or advanced that like you know better or whatever. But if that part doesn't resonate, don't take it because again, like that's not everybody. I just think sometimes it can be a slippery slope where instead of like immersion and cohesion and the subsequent blossoming, it just becomes like an extension of whatever was there before. And does that really benefit the people or does it benefit you? I don't know. Anyway, I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. Um, you know. And then I'm gonna do the fourth one. And then ooh, the judge flipped over with the comic still at the bottom. The judge, the comic, and the heart. The heart is behind the comic. With the heart being behind the comic, you can probably again like take what I said with a grain of salt, but just be mindful. And then the vessel is behind the heart again. But just be mindful. Um, I think sometimes too, when we think we know what is good for other people, or when we think we know what's best and better for them, or when we think that we know what's for them better than they know what's for themselves, we can like not necessarily listen to what they're asking for. And I feel like I said that in the course of this video at some point. Maybe not. But it's just like, you could be giving them like Netflix and Hulu and all of these different like streaming things. But if people aren't interested in watching it, or if people like if that's not something that people want, then like there's no added benefit to the people. And maybe that again it plays into that like, in this particular incarnation or for a piece of your incarnation, you may find yourself in a smaller, more niche, more like tight knit group. And then as things sort of like progress, like you plant the seed, but then eventually when the time comes, it will grow. Right. So the fourth and final one at only 116. Let's go. I feel like I'm making stellar time. 117 actually. Um, Last pile. Let's see what is coming up. No problem. First card is the self, number 29. 29 is an 11. So I'll take the one, which is the empty room, and the one, which is the kiss. The kiss is 60. So then I'll pull 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the animal, which is number 19, which is a 10. So 1. We have the orphan, which is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have Kairos again, which is number 76. 76 is a 13. So that's a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we end at the self. So again, we end at the card that's at the top. Was that what, 2, 3, and 4? The self, the empty room, the kiss, the animal, the orphan. Is that it? No, and Kairos. All 4 of these has ended with one of these. Besides, I don't think 3 did. No, 3 ended with the comic. 1, 2, and 4 all ended with one of these stages of development or whatever. The shadow is at the bottom of 4. Um, the first one was Eros. The second one was not Alemania. It's not Germany. It was Agape. This one ends with Kairos. The self, the empty room, the kiss, the animal, the orphan, and Kairos. I'll show you again. The self. The self in the empty room is an interesting combination. Um, the kiss, the animal, the orphan, and Kairos. There's a little bit of an energy from this third one here, just because the eye of the animal and the eye of Kairos, and because of the orphan in between. The empty room in the self is not concerning, but interesting. I feel like I got less and less cards every time I did this. That may not necessarily be true. So between the self and the empty room, how I'm like initially feeling this, like in the center of the self, we see alchemical gold, we see a pearl, right? And then it's on the silhouette, and then there are all of these colors outside, almost like the flame. Oh, from the first one. Okay, maybe we're building a vessel and it's fine. Because the empty room is all of this emptiness, right? But that's the person. And then there's all of this color outside, but the person themselves is like, so there's this energy where it's almost like maybe there's this like great grand vision or viewpoint or knowing of the self that informs or that colors the environment around oneself, but there's like nothing. It's a silhouette. The shadow is at the bottom of the deck, or the bottom of the pile. Well, it's at the bottom of the deck now. The rest is all together. And then the kiss is there. This is so like difficult to grasp because it's like there's no attachment to the body. There's no sense of identity. Maybe because like again, like there's this great knowing here at the core that like colors everything, like it's radiating outward, but the person themselves is just like a silhouette. They're just a shell. They're an otherwise empty vessel. It almost feels like that person who's so kind and compassionate and caring, who does everything for everybody, but they're like lacking, or their like self-love and self-worth is kind of low. And so it's like they do so much for so many different people, but they don't feel worthy or deserving of anything themselves. And so it's almost like this energy that's constantly giving, or this energy that's constantly shining, but it's not receiving anything. So as you can imagine, it's probably extremely depleting. But it's this disconnect from an outside view, because you would think that someone that is that loving and caring and kind and compassionate, like you would think that from the outside, if you are that person, like you get it. But from the outside, it's like you would think that they also like care about themselves too. Or like you would think that they would like invest in themselves or something like that. Take care of themselves. There's a certain cruelty here, I feel. Um the animal and the orphan, like this feels like someone who feels like an outsider, or someone who feels like they're not a part of things. They feel orphaned. And with Kairos, like Kairos is, it's almost a little cruel in the sense that it can be. I'll read it both ways. It originally comes across as it like this longing for a home, but it's like it's this endless suffering that again, it's like it just deteriorates and deteriorates and deteriorates. It like it wears down on the person, maybe to the point where that's all that's left. Maybe at some point they were like fully golden and this was like their whole person. But then over time, like being this orphaned animal sort of left on the side of the road and abandoned, it's like it shrank and shrank and shrank and shrank and shrank until like this is all. And again, by that point, it's like no wonder why somebody might feel like undeserving or unlovable or something like that. And again, the thing about Kairos is that it's felt time. It's how time flies when you're having fun, and how time passes so unbearably slow when you want it to go faster. It feels like when the orphan is, or when the animal is in that orphan position, it feels like it's been there forever. And it feels like that's all there will ever be. Even if that's not a true conception of how time is passing, like that's what's felt. But at the same time, it's like when the animal finds a home, it's almost like it completely flips that dynamic at some point. At some point, it's going to be like, it's like after the self surges to fill the person and then extend outward, it's going to be like, it wasn't even that long. Or it's like, it's worth the wait. It's something that one knows so deeply and so, I want to say viscerally, that it was worth the wait, that it makes like everything so worth it just to have that now. And it's like, if I look back, I'm so happy and so fulfilled now. It's like it passed in the blink of an eye, because now time is flying, where otherwise it was passing excruciatingly slow. And so, in that sense, it is kind of sort of neutral. I feel like the only thing I haven't really talked about is the kiss. And that's because I'm not quite sure how to read it. My first, again, initial impression was that, like, it's the empty room filling up. It's like the moon was new and now it's becoming full. The moon is filling with, like, I saw a video or an article when I swipe on my phone and get the little news things. It's like, I didn't watch it or read it. I think it was a thumbnail about how, like, touch starvation or something like that. And I guess that touch starvation is making me think of the kiss because they're like holding hands. It's not even a kiss, it's a hand kiss, I guess. This could also be an eclipse, though. This one is, I feel like this is one of the rough ones, if you couldn't already tell. Because it feels like these held hands, the eclipse of this moon or whatever, feels like it's eclipsing this. And because of the animal and the orphan, it's like it's what happens to those who find love that isn't necessarily healthy. Because it's again with that eclipse energy, there's like something about being with another person, something about working a certain job, something about the things that are held on to that eclipse the self until it is just the empty room. And I know there have been people who have had experiences with people who will effectively empty them so that they don't think that they'll be loved or valued or appreciated anywhere else, so that they don't feel that they have any options, so that they become trapped and become reliant upon this person. And then the person can do whatever to them. I'm going to get another card again. The castle is under the shadow. The mystic is under that. Aletheia, which is truth. With Apocalypsis at the bottom of the deck. Is that another eye? Kinda. So the card that flipped over and the card that came out are both those two, and then there's the seed. The card that flipped over and the card that came out are both, and the last card, they're all these like major turning points in our growth, development, maturation as a person, as a soul, as whatever. I actually want to read Apocalypsis just because I don't have the book. You know what? For you, number 4, you're worth it. I'll do it. Give me a moment. It's not that hard to reach. I just gotta get it. I do gotta go to the bathroom though. Like I said, I did my drug screening today, so I've been drinking so much water. Hold up! I already have the book. It's literally right here. That happened earlier today. So I went to go do my drug test. I went to the bathroom. I was like, oh crap. And then I got the email. Then I checked my email. I was like, I gotta do a drug screening. Drank like half a gallon of water. Had to go to the restroom. I had to pee. TMI. I had to go. We show up and the people are on lunch or whatever. I was holding it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I gotta go. Um, then I went to work out. I drank more water. I went back, did that. I wanted soup. The lady gave me a fork with my soup, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this fork? I had gotten um, takeout yesterday, and they gave me a fork and a spoon. I only used the fork, so I had the spoon. I used my takeout fork. But I was like, I'm not going to throw, I used the takeout spoon that I didn't throw away yesterday. And I was like, I'm not going to throw this fork away because I might need it. Then my mom, today's my grandma's birthday. My mom came back with cake from my grandma. I already had a fork to eat the cake. So there was, and then like I already pulled out, I already had the book, so I didn't even have to go looking for it. If I would have been like, oh my gosh, that's too much work, I'm going to have to do all this and I'm going to have to go over there and blah, 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 blah. I did it anyway, only to realize it wasn't there that I already had it. That's not the point. The point is, it's something about this empty room is a perception. This empty room is an illusion. This empty room is what we see because something is being eclipsed. It's like that's not the truth. The thing is there. Apocalypsis is 74. Aletheia is 77. And the book is upside down. There's Agape. Apocalypsis. This is removing the veil of deception. Removing the veil of deception. Oh my gosh, I love it. Apocalypsis indicates a particularly painful time, one that unfolds when two disparate dynamics occur simultaneously, pulling the psyche in seemingly opposing directions. The first is a lifting of the veil. This means truths, aletheia, truth. This means truths that have been kept in the dark are revealed, seen, and unearthed. Truths that have been kept in the dark under this eclipsed, whatever this was that eclipsed this, it's almost like being inside of a jar and somebody like tightens the lid or they block it. After those truths are that have been kept in the dark are seen, revealed, and unearthed. No matter how relieving it is to witness them come into the light, an element of despair and grief follows. The second dynamic is the regeneration that comes from the wreckage of the revealed truth. The old narrative breaks and a new story forms. Apocalypsis energy is similar to a forest fire's devastation for the sake of regeneration. The veil lifts and we see who and what has been hiding. From the nakedness of the truth, a child is born. Have faith in the process. Hold on to your center. That is the only way. Hold on to your center. It seems like, again, if you can't see it, if you think it's gone or whatever, it's like that's the one thing you actually have. And I think, too, through unfortunate circumstance, it's like, especially with Aletheia, oh no, so sorry to hear it, Teresa. Um, Especially with Aletheia, it's almost like this light born out of the darkness. And it's the first pile had Eros. And Eros was the feeling of like, it was a feeling of exuberation and liberation. This is also because again with Kairos, it feels like there's gonna come a time where things sort of like flip. And as the perception changes, a lot of things I don't want to say they get put into place because there are things that no one should ever go through. But I guess like after you go through something, you can't necessarily undo it. One of the things that you can do is sort of take whatever you can from it and move forward. Um, but there is a realization, there's a revelation, a realization about the self that happens at the end of this. I think sometimes when we're in it, it's hard to see. Um, but it's like if, especially for dynamics and relationships in which one person is like not great, and when they try to chip away at the self-esteem, self-worth, self-value of the other person to make them dependent on them or so that they won't leave, but it's like if if we truly were all of the things that were said, like why would that person even be there? If it's so bad and so unbearable and so whatever, like why are you still here? Because those things aren't true. If they were, I don't think they're the type of person that would stick around. You know what I mean? One second. Hey, yeah, sorry. Um, yeah, it's like if all of those things were true, that person wouldn't be the one to stick around. You know, they're not that gracious or kind or compassionate or whatever. I would say if there are any like resources that you can get access to, definitely use them. Um, and maybe there is a part of this where things sort of take time, but time is relative. Time is not absolute. And it's like it's something that gets easier with time as well. Because again, like the two cards that came out is truth and disillusionment. So and they go hand in hand, right? Like dispelling deception and truth are essentially the same. But you'll get a view of yourself that, see, now this, coming back to it, this feels like an ignited sense of self. This is the part where you sort of like, you'll get to the point where you learn to shine so brilliantly that it's like you become uneclipsable. You're just too bright. Where you shine, where this feeling of like potentially being undesirable, it'll go away. Again, there's something about all three of these where it's like it might start gradually, but then you may reach a point one day where you feel like it kind of happened all at once. And as you continue to move forward, it's like the days become so bright that it like shortens. It might feel like it shortens the amount of time that you spent there because the lasting impacts of it like begin to fade away. And you may come into a realization and a recognition of yourself that's like, oh, so this is the thing that other people could see in me that I couldn't necessarily see in myself. This is why there may be some who would like try to take advantage of me because of this. And again, like that is who you are. I wish there was something more comforting and consoling that I could say or something more that I could do, but I feel like it's one of those things that while you're in it, it's one thing, but when you get out of it, it's just that like life changes so drastically. Hey Steph, how you doing? Well, that one got a little heavy, but again, um, I hope, I guess, when the time comes, and the time will come, where you meet those who are unlike the ones you've experienced, and when you start to get opportunities unlike the ones that you had, when you reach that turning point, I hope you can allow a life that is the one that you've been deserving of the whole time, of true like love and happiness and appreciation and like value, that you could also give those to yourselves to the point where you don't compromise it. And again, where you find yourself in places where it won't like you won't be asked to compromise. And with that, I'm doing well. The offering. The offering and the sword. Love that. And then the warrior, the sword of the warrior. Um, oh, look at the moons. It's like night and day here. There's something about those because again, it's like before one eclipsed the other one. There's something about as like the truth comes in and as the deception lifts and as the cogs start to really turn, it's like the sun comes out. It's like one of those movies where there's a kingdom that's cursed, and then it's like always dull and dreary or whatever. But then the curse lifts, and the sun comes out, and the magic comes back, and the fountains start to run again. Where time starts moving again. I hope that for you. Alrighty, well, I hope you all have an amazing whenever you see this. If you're not, I hope you have a much better one soon. I hope you are acting in alignment with all that. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I guess I hope you're acting in alignment with your intuition, discernment, guidance, and wisdom and knowledge and stuff like that. I hope you get where you want to go. And I hope you're happy. And with that, I will catch you all later. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I'll see you when I see you.